everyone. So you really want to get into this AI ethics thing, huh?
Sounds like it.
Not just the what, but the nitty-gritty how.
Right, exactly.
Well, today we're going deep
Deep dive time.
with this legal whiz, Peter Zipparo. He's at McKinsey.
Oh, I've heard of it.
He's got this article. It's like a roadmap for making AI work in the real world.
Because it's one thing to talk about it.
Totally. Everyone's got opinions, but he gives you the tools.
Tools to actually do something.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about.
It's refreshing, actually.
So instead of just going on and on about principles,
Which, don't get me wrong, are important.
of course, they're the foundation, right?
Yeah.
Zipparo, he lays them out, but it's more like,
He brings it to life.
yes, and shows you why each one matters, like if you're using AI at work tomorrow.
Which, let's be real, a lot of us are. Or will be soon.
Exactly. So he's got these examples.
Oh, tell me about the loan one. That one got me.
Intense, right? Imagine you're applying for a loan.
Hoping to buy a house or a car.
Yeah.
Big life stuff.
And bam, rejected.
By an algorithm.
But not just any algorithm, one that's biased.
And you might not even know. That's the scary part.
True, that's what I'm talking about. And this is where those words, those principles, they're not just for academics anymore.
Fairness, transparency, accountability.
They become real-life safeguards.
It's like, okay, that's why this matters.
So let's break it down a bit. Explainability, for example. What does that even mean?
It sounds complicated, but it's really not.
Because when I hear that, I think, like, can the AI write me a letter?
No, not quite.
Okay, good.
It means being able to understand why the AI made a decision.
Ah, so it's like it spits out an answer, but you also know the why behind it.
Exactly.
So say I'm using an AI tool for, I don't know, marketing emails.
Oh, right.
And it flags something I did as wrong.
Yeah.
I should be able to see why it's flagging it.
Exactly. It's not just about taking the AI's word for it.
And that ties into transparency too, right?
Yeah, 100%. Transparency means knowing when AI is even involved in the first place. And then, to the extent possible, being able to see how it's working.
Okay, so we've got those two, explainability and transparency. What about humans, though? Where do we fit into all of this? I mean, we don't just want to hand over the reins to the machines completely, do we?
That's where human oversight comes in. Zipparo really stresses this.
Oh, good. I was hoping he would.
Yeah, he's big on having that human in the loop.
Makes sense.
Someone who's overseeing things, making sure the AI is on track, making good judgments, and not just that, but meticulously documenting everything along the way.
It's like that saying, trust but verify. Right.
Exactly. You don't just trust the AI blindly. You build in checks and balances.
Yeah.
And that documentation creates an audit trail so you can track the system's output over time and spot any potential issues.
And what about all the data that goes into these AI systems? I mean, we've all heard those horror stories about AI going rogue because it was trained on biased data. Where does data privacy fit into all of this?
That's huge.
Yeah.
You've got to know where that data is coming from in the first place. Is it being used ethically and responsibly? That's another place where human judgment is essential.
It's like they say, garbage in, garbage out, right? You can have the most amazing AI system in the world, but if it's built on shaky data, the whole thing falls apart.
100%. And what's cool is Zipparo doesn't just stop at those big ideas. He gets into the nitty-gritty details, too. Like, he talks about performance and safety, which seems obvious, but you'd be surprised how many people overlook that.
Well, yeah, you want to make sure these AI models are actually doing what they're supposed to be doing, right? Especially when they're being used in situations where accuracy really matters.
Exactly. Imagine an AI system that's helping doctors diagnose diseases.
Yeah.
It can't just be pretty good. It has to be incredibly accurate. And it can't just be accurate on day one. It needs to be constantly monitored and updated.
Right, because the world is constantly changing, right? New information comes out, new patterns emerge. You can't just set it and forget it.
Exactly. AI systems are always learning and evolving, so ongoing monitoring is key to ensuring they're still functioning properly and haven't developed any unintended biases.
It's like AI needs regular checkups, too. And speaking of unintended consequences, I was really interested in what Zipparo had to say about security. I feel like that's something we don't talk about enough.
So important. Just like any other valuable system, AI needs to be protected from hacking or manipulation. Think about it. If someone can tamper with the system, it undermines everything we're trying to achieve with ethical AI.
It's like, what's the point of all these ethical guidelines if someone can just hack in and change the rules of the game, right?
Exactly. And the last thing Zipparo brings up really surprised me. He talks about sustainability. I'll be honest, I don't usually think of those two things together, AI and sustainability.
Yeah, me neither. But it makes sense when you think about it. All those massive data centers, the energy it takes to train these AI models.
Exactly. We have to think about the environmental impact and find ways to make AI development more sustainable. It's all part of the bigger picture, right? Responsible AI means considering all of these factors.
It's like we're not just trying to build smart machines, we're trying to build a better future, right?
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got this fantastic breakdown of ethical AI principles from Zipparo, but now I'm really curious. How does a company like McKinsey actually put all of this into practice?
Well, get this. They have something called tech trust teams. They call them 3Ts for short.
Tech trust teams. 3 Ts. Okay, I'm intrigued. What are those?
So imagine this. Tech trust teams. What does that even look like? Like a SWAT team for AI ethics.
Okay, maybe not that dramatic, but it is pretty cool. Instead of just, having a big policy manual, McKinsey actually embeds these 3T teams right into their project teams.
Whoa, so they're like ethics consultants, but they're not off in a corner somewhere. They're right there with the developer.
Right there in the thick of it. I like it. So they can actually head off problems before they even happen.
Exactly. And it's not just about, playing gotcha with the tech guys. It's about having those open conversations right from the start about fairness, about bias, about transparency.
Building it right the first time.
Exactly. So it's proactive, not just reactive.
Love it. So it's like built-in ethical safeguards from day one. Okay, what else does he talk about?
Well, he talks about this thing called red teaming, which is fascinating.
Wait, red teaming. Is that like where everyone wears red shirts on Tuesdays or something?
No. It's kind of like an AI stress test.
Oh, okay. Tell me more.
So imagine your AI system. It's all ready to go. You're about to launch it.
The big day.
And then you bring in this independent team.
Okay.
And this team, it's got all kinds of experts, not just tech people.
Oh, so we're talking like lawyers, ethicists.
Risk analysts, the whole shebang.
Yeah.
And their job is to try and break the system.
No way. Seriously?
Seriously. They're looking for weaknesses, blind spots, anything the original developers might have missed.
That's intense. I mean, it makes sense, right? You don't want to find out your AI has a flaw after it's already out there in the world.
Exactly. It's like better to have them find the flaws than, some hacker who wants to exploit them.
Oh, 100%. So it's like a controlled demolition almost. You're trying to blow it up before someone else does. Okay, I'm starting to see why this red teaming thing is so important.
And Zipparo gives this really interesting example about how they used red teaming with a client who was building a resume screening tool.
Whoa, yeah, that's a minefield right there. You do not want bias creeping into hiring decisions.
Exactly. So they brought in this external expert who's like a bias detection guru.
Love it, like an AI bias bounty hunter.
Right. And they worked with the client to test the tool super rigorously, make sure it wasn't discriminating based on things like gender or race or whatever.
See, that's what I'm talking about. You need that extra layer of scrutiny, especially with something as sensitive as hiring.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because we've all seen what happens when AI goes wrong.
Right. It's not like those sci-fi movies where the robots become self-aware and take over the world or anything. It's more subtle, right?
It's the unintended consequences that'll get you.
Exactly. Like you think you're building something to make things fairer, but then it turns out to be biased in ways you never even imagined.
Right. And then you've got a whole other mess on your hands.
Okay, so we've got these tech trust teams, we've got red teaming.
Yep.
What happens after the AI is built, though? Like, is that it? Do you just set it loose and hope for the best?
That's where a lot of companies go wrong. They think it's a one-time thing. But Zipparo, he's really big on this idea of ongoing monitoring and maintenance.
Oh, good, because that's what I was thinking. This can't just be a one-and-done deal, right?
Exactly. He even has these really thought-provoking questions that he says everyone working with AI should be asking themselves all the time.
Oh, I love a good thought-provoking question. Hit me. What are they?
So the first one is all about accountability. Like once the AI is out there in the wild, who's ultimately responsible?
Oh, yeah, who's steering the ship?
Right. Is there still a human in the loop keeping an eye on things?
Because it's tempting to just trust the machine, right? Especially if it seems to be doing a good job.
Exactly. And then the second question is, are we still actively mitigating bias?
Because things change, right? The data changes, the world changes.
Exactly. So you have to keep checking, keep adjusting, make sure those biases haven't crept back in.
It's like our understanding of bias is always evolving, right?
Yeah.
What we thought was okay a few years ago, we might look at totally differently now.
Exactly. And AI has to keep up with that.
So it's not enough to just program in what we know, NOW. We have to keep learning and adapting.
Exactly. And then the last question is all about regulatory compliance. because the laws around AI, they're changing all the time.
Right, trying to keep up with the technology.
Exactly. So you have to make sure your AI system isn't just ethical today, it's going to stay ethical tomorrow and the day after that.
It's like you're not just building an AI system, you're building an ethics engine that has to keep running.
That's a great way to put it. It's that constant ethical consideration. That's what separates the companies that are just ticking boxes from the ones that are really committed to doing this right.
Wow, it's really a journey, isn't it? This whole ethical AI thing, it's not something you just figure out once and you're done.
Totally. It's an ongoing process.
But this is good. This is giving me hope.
Yeah.
Because it's easy to get overwhelmed by all the potential pitfalls, but this makes it seem manageable.
Yeah, it's not easy, but it's definitely doable.
Okay, so we've got these principles, we've got the practical steps, and then Zipparo hits us with this really unexpected example. He starts talking about dot mining.
Mining, yeah. Not what you expect, right?
Not at all. But it's a brilliant example, actually.
Because you wouldn't think AI ethics would be a big deal in the mining industry, but when you hear him talk about it, it's like, oh yeah, of course.
So tell me more about this mining example. Why is it so important?
Okay, so picture this.
Okay, so picture this. We're talking about AI and mining. It's not the first thing that comes to mind.
Not exactly Silicon Valley, right? But that's Zipparo for you, he makes you think.
So what's the AI connection? What are we talking about here?
Imagine an AI system. It's making recommendations for mining procedures.
Yeah.
Like how deep to dig, where to put explosives, that kind of thing.
All right, and that's where things get real, right? Because those decisions,
Huge impact.
not just on efficiency, but safety, the environment, the whole shebang.
Exactly. And this is where AI ethics gets real. It's not just theoretical anymore.
Because you've got people's lives on the line.
Right. And the environment. It makes you think twice about just letting an algorithm make those calls, doesn't it?
Absolutely. So how do you balance that? The AI's power, but also the human element.
Zipparo's big on this. The people on the ground, the miners, they need to understand the why.
The why behind the AI's recommendations.
Yes. They can't just blindly trust it. It's like, okay, the AI says dig here, but if you don't know why.
It's scary.
Right. It's about that partnership. The AI might be able to analyze tons of data, see patterns we wouldn't, but ultimately...
Humans are still calling the shots.
And they need all the information to make those calls responsibly, ethically. That's what Zipparo's getting at. It's not about replacing judgment. It's about making it better.
Giving people better tools, better insights. I like it. It's empowering. So as we wrap this up, what's the big takeaway? What should people be thinking about after they listen to this?
For me, it's that Zipparo doesn't frame ethical AI as this burden, this chore. It's not a box to check. It's more like an invitation.
An invitation. Okay, I like that.
Yeah, like, come on, let's think bigger. Let's use this technology, but let's use it wisely. Let's think about the impact, not just the cool factor.
It's on all of us, right? Tech people, business leaders, everyone.
Because this stuff, it's changing everything so fast.
We have to be having these conversations.
Exactly. So yeah, this was a deep dive, but it's really just the beginning.
Just the start of the journey. Keep asking questions, Keep learning. Keep pushing for that AI future that works for everyone.
Well said. A big thank you to Peter Zipparo for giving us so much to think about, and to all of you for joining us on this deep dive into AI ethics. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep striving for a more ethical, AI-powered future.